Does Android Oreo really take a bite out of progressive web apps? In this video, I'm going to talk about what potential problems people have been finding with the latest version of Android and progressive web apps. And answer, is this really a problem or better things on the way? Well, hey everybody. Hopefully this is going out. This is my first attempt at doing a Facebook Live from my desktop. It's taken me a little bit to get some of the infrastructure in place and launched, and hopefully this will be a good experience, and maybe I'll make it a little better as we go through this, but I wanted to start trying to do some live video and talk about things because there's all kinds of things that I always want to maybe produce some content on, and I kind of shove it over to the side and never get back around to doing it, and it's a real bad characteristic of me, so I thought I'd just go ahead and start creating some live videos because those seem to be very popular and can be very useful. And I can also make them very responsive to interesting topics of the day, so to speak, which is what we're going to do today to get this thing kicked off. Now, if you know me or you don't know me, my name is Chris Love. I'm the owner of Love's Dev, and I am what you would consider a big advocate of progressive web applications. And just to give you a little elevator pitch on a progressive web application, these are websites that, in the words of Alex Russell, have taken the right vitamins and progressively become apps. Now, we've got videos and some written content as well as courseware on progressive web apps, but basically these are applications that will prompt the user to add them to their home screen, and they do this because the site is served over HTTPS or has an SSL certificate. Either way, it's the same thing. Has a valid web manifest file, and you should also have an appropriate array of different image icons so that the platform can put that on the desktop. And then finally, you need to have a registered service worker that at least has a fetch event handler. Now, I'll talk a little bit more about those kind of topics in other live streams, I'm sure, but these have been emerging ways to do websites for really the last 2 years or so. And honestly, the way we've been building websites for the past 6 or 7 years are basically the model of progressive web apps, but now these features that I just discussed make them native to the platform, meaning native to Chrome, Firefox, Opera, and Microsoft Edge. We'll talk about that as we get closer to the Edge Summit as far as what Microsoft's strategy is. And of course, I'm leaving out Apple in there, but that's a whole nother discussion we can have as well. But today I want to talk about an article that my friend Max Firtman wrote yesterday that has gotten a lot of attention, and that is because Google released some details on Monday about Android Oreo, which is the newest version of Android. It's still in beta. It's not the official latest version, but it will supplant Android N. And he noticed some negative things around progressive web apps. And so he wrote an article about it. And as I read through this article yesterday, I went, oh no, no way. So I'm just going to kind of scroll here, zoom in a little bit, and we'll talk about what's going on here. And he's just talking about, Android Oreo is out and progressive web apps have acquired new problems. And he's already installed Oreo on his Pixel, and I have not done that to my device. In fact, I probably need to root it. Actually, I just need to get a new phone. But anyway, and started trying progressive web apps out. And he noticed some things right off the bat, and that is the broken add to home screen experience. Now, from a developer point of view, this might seem like the most minor part of the progressive web app, but to the consumer or your actual customer, this is everything. They don't know about service workers. They don't know how you set up your caching strategy. They don't understand how you've wired up maybe push notifications or background sync or any other really cool advanced geeky features that developers get excited about. But getting prompted to add the website to their home screen and launch it looking like a native application, that's what customers see, and that's what they get excited about. When I talk to non-developer types and I show them this, and I've shown them how to do these kind of things for the last 6 or 7 years, they get very excited about this. But evidently, Android Oreo has broken the experience that we've had where progressive web apps get their icons added to the home screen and they look just like native applications. They launch just like native applications. And that's because the home screen icon feature is not working quite right. First off, he points out that non-Chrome browsers, when you add to home screen, nothing is happening right now. And as we go through this, I think I have a clue why things aren't working right. And we can play that video, I think. There we go. It's a 23-second video. He's going to basically just show us what it looks like. This looks like Samsung Internet, which is a very good browser, by the way. I'll pinch in a little bit here. Maybe we can see what's going on. And you're going to go through the add to home screen experience there. He's gone to Flipkart Lite, which is one of the premier long-term progressive web apps. And there you go. You see part of what's going on. First off, the icon wasn't added because it was coming from Samsung Internet, but it also kind of gave you a preview of what he's going to complain about here in a minute. And basically he points out there's a new add to home screen process in Chrome. And he talks about that. It kind of feels like there's like an extra step being added to it. I'm not quite sure how much of an extra step that really is. But this is the manual add to home screen. It looks like not the one you get prompted for. There you go. He's comparing them side by side there for us. And he points out that there's just a little extra step. But here's the big one. Icons are not icons like we've had in the past, where they're essentially on equal footing with the native applications. Now they've got a little Chrome icon overlaid on top of it, plus they're circles. So if your regular icon is a square, it's going to shrink that down so that it fits within the circle. It's not going to, say, crop in on that or anything for you. So it's going to not look real pretty. And so this here with the AliExpress icon, the Chrome overlaid on top of it. And here he's comparing what things look like on Android 7 compared to what they look like on Oreo. And you can definitely see there's a big difference there. And that's not really what we're going after as web developers who really understand the advantages progressive web apps give us over native apps for sure. This makes us look like second or third class experiences already by doing that. And so that's what everybody kind of got up in an uproar. But he does finish the article by pointing out Web APK will be our hero. And I was like, what the heck is Web APK? I have not heard of this term before. And I felt like, how did I miss this? What did I do? What did I do wrong? What did I miss here? And I think it turns out I didn't necessarily miss the term. I did know the concepts were on the way. I literally have never heard of the term. And so I've scrambled over the last day trying to pull up articles on this, and they're few and far between. There are a few news places that are reporting about this, but there seems to be nothing I can find on the Google or Chrome developer pages that kind of talk about this terminology and the term Web APK. Now, they may have talked about that in hallway conversations at conferences, and maybe that's why Max knows about it and whatnot. But it seems like the Chrome team, from their comments, is a little cagey about it, and I know what it's like to deal with, in particular, folks at Microsoft being a little hush-hush about stuff that's coming down the pipe, even though we know it's kind of coming out. They're a little hesitant about saying things for sure, so I kind of get that. And this other part wasn't really that exciting, but if we scroll down, there we go, we got the icons again not looking great. He does talk about a few things, so, but he does point out right here, Google needs to work harder on progressive web apps, and that's really, what he's really saying here is the promise that the Chrome team in particular is making is that this is a way to make user experiences that are great without having to be native applications, not having the friction of the App Store, not having to pay the App Store tax, being able to update when you feel like doing, having the web superpower of deep linking and all these great and wonderful things. And this has been the promise, but it seems like they're kind of taking a step back from what he's picked up. Now, we scroll down to the comments. First one is Paul Kinlan, and this is a key person to comment on this because Paul is somebody I'm going to reference here in a moment. And he works for the Chrome team. In particular, he works on the stuff around this Web APK concept and everything. It looks like I think I might have met Paul once. I can't remember, but anyway, I do know who he is. I doubt he knows who I am. Who knows? He may. Anyway, but if we expand this out, hopefully it won't blow up at me. And one of the things that Max pointed out in the blog post is that he started talking about this Web APK stuff, 14 months ago is what it looks like here. And basically, this is kind of what I would call a party line kind of thing that I get a lot from Microsoft folks too. So I sense exactly what Paul's saying, I guess, is that, it takes a lot to get things right before they want to ship it, so to speak. But it's coming, right? And he thanks him for it. But this comment here from Mark Pieszak, sorry if I mispronounced that, leads us over to a Twitter conversation thread that was started based on Max's article, and Adi Asamadi replies directly to Max. And I think this is where things started making more sense to me about what's going on. So if you don't know Adi's developer relations on the Chrome team. He works on like a bajillion different open source projects and really does generally a good job making the web a better place for us and helping developers sort out some things. So he's a good guy to follow. But he points out here the issue with Oreo displaying the small Chrome icons for sites added to the home screen is now fixed. And he said test it with the Canary version of Chrome, which is like the version that's like right past the ones that the Chrome team kind of builds internally, right? And it's the one before Chrome Beta, so to speak, if you aren't familiar with that. And he points out that shouldn't be there. Now, what I had to do is I had to go back like I said, I went back, what the heck is going on with this Web APK thing? Now, if you're not familiar with Android applications, it looks like the live feed that I was recording cut off in the middle of it. So that's why I wanted to pick up roughly where I was and kind of finish out what I was talking about. So just real quick to recap so everybody knows we're on the same page. Been discussing Android Oreo and what it means for progressive web apps based on Max Firtman's blog post yesterday, where it looked like the Chrome team basically is making us take a step back with progressive web apps, not necessarily delivering on the roadmap they've shared with us. And doing so, they make the icon that's added to the home screen a circle and then overlay a little Chrome icon on top of that, really kind of taking us back. But what it really turns out is that basically a little bit of plumbing has not quite shipped with Oreo and Chrome just yet. It is in Chrome Canary, and it can be enabled in Chrome Beta. It's not actually in the real Chrome, and it's not in Oreo just yet. But basically, it started me down the right track when I found Adios Amati's reply on Twitter to Max's article. And basically, he's like, everything should be fixed. And then I'm like, well, what's that? So I went and looked around, and based on conversation, because you can see right there, Max saying, but that's Web APK, right? But it hadn't actually been delivered. He mentioned that in the article. And basically, that's the truth. So basically, Web APK is pretty close to getting released. It just wasn't ready for this beta version. And sometimes that's just how things go, but they're kind of getting things set up for it. So that's okay. And you just got to realize it's beta, and that's fine. So it looks like the panic, we can get over it. We can go back and say we're going to be good. But what I do want to do is I just want to go over what is Web APK, because this is real exciting stuff, and I don't think a lot of people really talked about that. And I had not heard of that term, and I thought, man, I missed something. How did I miss something on progressive web apps? So I feel like I'm really tight with progressive web apps, like really tight with progressive web apps. But evidently I missed this term, not what Web APK offers. Web APK, I went and looked on the internet, and I found like next to nothing on it. And I'm like, am I crazy? What's Max talking about? But I did find enough referencing to it. And evidently, I got a feeling where some of the people reporting on it and talking about it, like Max and a few news sites that I found in the Android space, was probably some of the Chrome team members having hallway conversations with folks and getting the word out. Or maybe it's just something that they were giving to some of the media folks. I'm not totally sure, but basically that's how it's kind of gotten out. They didn't actually use the term Web APK in any of their content. There's not a lot of content necessarily on it, but remember Paul Killian was the first one to kind of respond in kind of a hazed way to Max, and basically this is what I want to reference here is last year's Chrome Dev Summit. Paul Killian had a session on what comes next for the web, which basically lays out a roadmap primarily for progressive web apps. And this is where it gets real exciting. I'm not going to play the video because I think that'd be a little duplicate in here. I want to link to the video in the description, so make sure you watch it. And I'll have it pointed right to where he starts talking about these things. But in essence, when someone adds your progressive web app to their home screen in Chrome, once Oreo official ships, what's going to happen seamlessly is that the progressive web app is automatically compiled to a regular Android application, effectively making a Cordova type application, except there's no like web view. It's just built in to work that way with real Chrome and not a web view, which is awesome. But you also get all the first class features of being a regular native app on the platform. And that's going to include things like being in the app drawer and in the system settings, so you can go through there, individual partitioning, so you can view what the storage situation is like with your application. Users will be able to uninstall just like a regular native app, hopefully not as much as they do native apps because they uninstall them all the freaking time. But another thing that web apps have that native apps don't really offer is the ability to do deep linking. That means somebody can send you a link to a site, or you can find one in the search results. And Chrome's just going to know you've already got it installed as a progressive web app. And it's going to launch the site as a progressive web app, but it's going to open up the page that you click the link to, which is going to be pretty awesome, I think. That's something that is definitely an advantage over native applications there. And of course, you're going to retain the ability to just update your progressive web app whenever you need to, naturally and seamlessly without having to go through the App Store process. Yay, which is awesome. Which is one of the reasons why a lot of people go the route of a Cordova app, because they don't want to have to fuss with the censorship effectively that is app stores and making their application updates and getting those things deployed to everybody. It's a nightmare. And the web is just fantastic for that deployment scenario. Now, another thing that's real important about the Web APK approach is that you're also going to be a real native application, and you will have access to more native APIs, if not all of them. I haven't got a real full story on that, still a little foggy. That's okay. But I got a feeling it's going to be a lot like the hosted web app story that's on Windows. And if you aren't aware, for the last few years, and not many people are aware of this, if your website's served with SSL and has a valid web manifest file, you qualify as a hosted web app, and you can submit your URL to the Microsoft Windows Store, and they will automatically create a Microsoft native application of your website, effectively the same kind of features, and you will be featured in the App Store. Now, I'm not a fan of putting it into the App Store. I always thought app stores were just the dumbest thing in the world. We already have search engines, and the web's great at just getting access to stuff. Now, one of the cool things about these hosted web apps when they are put through the App Store is you will have access to the hardware APIs and stuff that you don't normally have in a web page or just a browser. And from what I picked up with the Web APK, it's the almost exact same story. The big difference is they're just bypassing the store because it's just a waste of time. So that's a great story right there. I'm a huge fan of this. Really glad to see this. So just have a little patience. Right now, they're just kind of undoing a little bit of stuff that they did so they can take advantage of the new plumbing. And evidently it's almost baked, but not fully baked. And you don't want to take the cake out before it's done because it's going to be a little gooey in the middle, and you got to have it fully baked. And that's what we're really after. So hopefully this clears up the confusion, and we don't have to panic as much about progressive web apps in the future. Thanks for Max for pointing all this stuff out, and because I would have done the same thing if I saw it, I would have freaked out too. So I don't blame Max for freaking out on that. And you know, by doing it, he actually kind of teased out some comforting information from some of the developer advocates on the Chrome team, which is good to hear too. So that's good that they're paying attention to things out here in our ecosystem. Now, if you got any questions or comments, please leave those in the area below. Definitely like the video. If you don't like it, you can thumb down it too, but it kind of tell me why. I mean, this is my first time doing this live stuff, and obviously I'm having to come back and patch things up a little bit. Now, I'm hoping to make this more regular, because I've got all kinds. Every day, it's like I got like 4 or 5 different blog posts or videos I want to do, and like never get them done because I got so many things to do. And this may be a way for me to just get stuff off my chest and not worry so much about just being like really pristine in my video production. Just get the stuff out there. And if you got any questions or topics you want me to cover, man, just ask those in the description below too. Shoot me a message on Twitter. It's at Chris Love. Follow the Facebook page, Love to Dev. Just communicate with me. I'll see what I can do. As always, have fun, enjoy progressive web apps, make great websites, make great web experiences, and let's make the web a great place. All right, guys. Again, it's Chris Love, the owner of Love to Dev, and I am so thankful you spent some time with me on this video.